Welcome to E-English class, dear teacher friends and students of 10th class. This is Vinod Kumar, a teacher from Kurnool district. In today's episode, we shall see the post-reading activity related to slot number 3 from the reading passage Attitude is Altitudes. That is from when I was 13, I read a newspaper article on page number 4 to She Sped Off Really Quickly on page number 5. What is a post-reading activity? What are the steps involved in it? These points have already been discussed in the previous classes. You may watch them to know more about the post-reading activity. I have identified some discourses in the reading slot for this post-reading activity. Those discourses are: number 1, a diary entry. The following are the situations where there is a scope for a diary entry. The first one is Nick writing a diary entry after reading the newspaper about a disabled man and getting inspired. Number 2 is Nick writing a diary entry on winning the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award. Number 3, a young girl writing a diary entry after the experience of watching a man with no arms and legs doing 360-degree spins in a car seat. The same situation, that is the incident at the traffic lights, may be used to ask Nick to write a diary entry about freaking a young girl out. The second identified discourse is a letter writing. Nick writes a letter to the editor of a newspaper about the article on a disabled man. The third discourse is description of an incident. Here, Nick describes the incident at the traffic lights in which he freaked out a young girl. And the last discourse identified by me is an interview. Here, students imagine themselves to be journalists or reporters. They interview Nick on getting the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award, and that interview may be in the form of a conversation. That is, the interview is to be written in the form of a conversation. So these are the discourses identified by me. Dear teacher friends, you are suggested to identify discourses of your own choice, because the identification of discourses from any reading slot differ from teacher to teacher. So it is your own choice. Among the identified discourses, I take writing a diary entry for my presentation today. Before knowing how to write a diary entry, dear students, know the difference between these two words, a diary and a diary. Both words look same, but there is some difference in the spelling and pronunciation. Diary, D-I-A-R-Y, diary is a book in which someone writes down the experiences, private thoughts, etc. day-wise. That means A diary is a written record of one's experiences or personal feelings written on a day. That is, they are written day wise. And a diary, D-A-I-R-Y, diary, or it is pronounced derry. You can pronounce it anyway. Diary or derry. A dairy refers to the building where milk is stored or where cream, butter and cheese etc. are made from milk. So this is the difference between a diary and a dairy. Students should not be confused. Now let us come to the diary entry. What is a diary? How is it organized? And what are the contents in a diary entry? We are going to learn these things in the form of question answers. What is a diary entry? A diary entry is a record of personal feelings about significant events on a particular day in one's life. That means what all happen in a person's life from the moment he wakes up from the bed to the moment he goes to bed may be recorded in the form of a written form. This is a diary entry. Diaries are available in stationery shops. You may buy them, and in that book you'll find printed dates and days from January 1st to December 31st. So one who writes the diary will write the day's proceedings, the important things happen to him in the diary. Then how is a diary entry organized? As we discussed, a diary entry is organized according to the date when it is written. You may include the time also, the time of the diary entry. Obviously, diary entry is written just before going to bed, so it is the post meridian time, that is the evening time, mentioned as the entry of the diary. Now, what are the contents of a diary entry? So what is written in a diary entry? In a diary entry, we write the thoughts, emotions, reflections, dreams and personal experience etc. of a person happen on any day. So these are the important things about a diary entry. Now let us see the parts of a diary entry. What are to be written in a diary? How a diary entry is written. The diary entry has the following parts. Place. Place is the place where we write the diary entry from. This part is optional. That means you may write it or you may leave it. So whatever we say is optional, whatever part we say is optional may be written or it may be left out. So it is the choice of the writer whether to write it or not. So place is optional, that means you may write it or leave it. Date and day. Date and day are to be written. They are compulsory. In a printed book, we have those things already printed, but in an examination, when you are attempting a diary entry, you have to write the date and day on which a particular incident happened. Next comes time. Time, we have already discussed that time is optional. The time of the diary entry is optional. When you write it, you have to remember that generally a diary entry is made just before going to bed. People have the habit of writing a diary entry just before going to bed, writing all the things happen on a particular day. Next comes salutation. In a letter writing, we write salutation like dear friend or dear father, dear mother, like that. The same way we address the diary as a person, that means a diary is personified, that is, it is made a person to whom we express our feelings. We express all the things happen to us and share all our feelings with the diary, treating it as a friend. So some people say that dear diary has to be written compulsory, and some say there is no need to write dear diary in a diary entry. So this is optional. It is the choice of the individual who is writing the diary entry to write it or to leave it. There is no hardcore rule that we have to write it. Next comes the heading of the diary entry. This is also optional. The heading of the diary entry is the title about the contents. So what are we going to write in the diary entry? Maybe written as a heading, so it is optional. Next comes the important part of the diary entry, that is the contents of a diary entry. Here we write what we are asked to write. The particular incident happened in one's life is written here under contents. So it becomes the more important part of the diary. And finally comes signature. Signature here means the signature of the writer. Suppose if you are asked to imagine yourself to be Nick and write a diary entry, then the signature will be of Nick, not your own. So the writer has to take care of putting the signature of the person whom you imagine yourself to be. That is to be taken care of. All these parts except the heading of the entry are arranged at the left margin. That means they all start at the left margin. Only the heading of the entry is written in the middle, just below the salutation, and the remaining all come on left margin. And here I advise the students to write the diary entry in an examination in a box. That means your diary entry should be written in a box to give it a neat appearance. This is a piece of advice from me. So after knowing the parts of a diary entry, let us see the format of a diary entry. Here is the format. I hope this will help you to write a diary entry in a better way. The into marks or the cross marks on the left top corner refer to the place where the diary entry is written from. The into marks refer to the place. It is followed by the date and then the day. 9 p.m. refers to the time of the diary entry. Dear diary is the salutation. And another set of into marks refer to the heading of the diary entry. Then comes the content or message of the diary, and finally comes the signature. So this is a very simple format. I'm hopeful that this will help you students to write a diary in an easy way. Now let us look at some important points to be remembered. What care have we to take when we attempt a diary entry? The first very important point is that generally a diary entry is made in the first person narrative. That means the writer uses the pronouns like I, me, my and mine when writing a diary entry. So he personalizes things. You can understand it better when we see a model diary entry. Next important point is that your diary entry should be informal in tone, style and language. So we have to use informal tone, informal style and informal language. So what is informal tone? Tone is the writer's attitude towards the subject he writes. It is the attitude carried by the writer towards what he writes. Style is the usage of the language. The writer has to use informal style, informal way of expression, using short forms and using words generally we use with our close friends. That means collocations, colloquial language as we speak may be used in the diary entry. Then the writer has to take care of the tense when writing a diary entry. Generally a diary entry is written to express the feelings about a past event or past incident. So obviously the tense used is the past tense. But when the writer has to write about future events, then he may use the present tense or the future tense. But for past things, for about things which had already happened, past tense is to be used. And another point to be remembered is that whatever you write should be friendly, truthful and honest. So the writer has to be honest with himself. He has to write the series of incidents in a truthful manner. Whatever he writes should be true, not writing cock and bull stories. And the very, very important point is the writer has to imagine, express his views or his feelings in a creative manner. That means he has to be innovative in expressing his feelings. This is the point behind asking you to write any discourse. You are asked to write a discourse. This is to test your creativity. So all the discourses we are trying to attempt in an examination are to test your creativity. So be creative, use your imagination, and be expressive in your ideas. So these are the points to be remembered. And here is a model diary entry. I have taken Nick writing a diary entry on getting the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award. So after getting the award, here are the feelings of Nick recorded in the form of a diary entry. The place is Melbourne. When he got this award, Nick was residing in Melbourne. So the place is Melbourne. We do not know the exact date. We know only the year. So I put some into marks for date and month. Next comes the day. This is also not known to us. We do not know the day. So I put it into marks. 9 p.m. is the time of the diary entry, and Dear Diary is the salutation. The heading is winning the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award. Winning the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award is the heading, and the content is like this. I am so happy and excited today to receive the Australian Young Citizen of the Year award for 1990 for my bravery and perseverance. This is a recognition for my fight against anti-bullying and motivating people like me. I can't contain my excitement. I am grateful to my family and friends for their support and encouragement. This award has increased my responsibility, and I am resolved to continue my efforts, anticipating to do a lot more. Nick Vujicic. Of course, your sentences may be different from mine. You may use your own imagination and creativity and write the content in a different way. So this is a model conversation, and this is all about writing a diary entry. I hope I am clear in giving you important points about writing a diary entry, and I am hopeful that this will help you students in attempting a diary entry. Thank you dear teacher friends and students for watching. See you soon in the next episode with some other topic. Thank you.